Tabitha Lipkin. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Vashti?
I'm good. I'm doing fantastic. Can't complain. It's nice and chill over here. The weather's nice. It's starting to cool down now. It's not as hot. We had
Awesome.
a heat advisory for a minute. Now it's starting to cool down.
It is 100 degrees here.
Yes.
I miss it.
First of all, before I get into everything, I really just want to say thank you for joining me on today's episode of Extraordinary
Thanks for
Women.
having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so first things first, you just moved to Dallas, you just left Fox 5. How are you settling down there? Is it still kind of shifty? You still getting used to things?
Yeah, I think I'm from Texas originally, but I still think like anytime like you get used to a new place, like you still have to get used to it. I've been away for 10 years and I obviously miss San Diego very much, but I'm settling in really well. And I've been able to go into work. I mean, we're in a pandemic, but I've been able to go into work for the past 3 weeks, which has been really nice.
Mhm.
And we launched our new network, NBCLX, 2 weeks ago. So it's been great getting to know everyone and just kind of like getting into the groove of like, oh, this is my new life.
Exactly, is NBCLX about? I mean, I saw a little bit of some clips that you posted on social media. It seems like it focused a little bit on like lifestyle and like interest and entertainment just a little bit, or am I getting that wrong impression?
No, you're completely correct. So it's basically a brand new network that appeals to millennials and Gen Zers, and I think Gen Y as well. And so what we're trying to do is recreate the way that news is both consumed, but also how it's presented. And that's what I think is really, really great. It's a startup of sorts within NBC, but it's helping answer that question of how do we get those generations to watch TV news, because they're not typically the types of generations that do. And so
Yeah.
you'll notice a lot of our journalism is more long form format. So we have packages that are 9 or 10 minutes, which is not something you would see in local news. And we're all encouraged to be ourselves and to really show our personalities and kind of not be scared to talk about topics where when you work in local news, like, it's pretty much like story, 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 story. Okay, here's a 2-minute package. Here's a report in the field. Story, story, story. Here's a weather break. And we're just trying to completely turn that on its head.
Okay, I like it. I like it. How did you get your start in broadcasting, and then how do you think your experience has prepared you for this new role that you've taken on at NBCLX in Dallas?
I don't know. So I don't know if you're ever really truly prepared for a new experience like this.
Hmm.
Luckily, I feel like I've gotten to work in like so many different mediums of television so far. I mean, as you know, I've done sports and I've done weather and I've done travel and I've done hard news, and you kind of combined all that. And that is kind of like what our platform puts out there now. I went to school for broadcast journalism at the University of Texas. And when I was in school there, which was, 2008 to 2012, that program, the broadcast track, doesn't even exist anymore. It's like now a multimedia track. So you can even see from there how much news has changed.
Yeah.
And basically I've been working in broadcast ever since. And I think I've always been kind of a different personality in news.
Yeah.
I don't think I really, I never really fit in a box anywhere. And I think that's why I obviously loved really Fox 5, because they let me just be myself. And now in my new home, I get to be myself there, but just on a national scale, which is really, really cool. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you want the full timeline, but basically I went to school. I interned in late night. So I worked at the Colbert Report and then Conan. And then I moved back to LA, and I basically was like an audience coordinator. I worked behind the scenes in LA doing stuff related to TV, but not to broadcast journalism. But then I was able to finally get my first job, which is the hardest job in broadcast to get, in Palmdale, California. And then I went from Palmdale to San Diego, and then I bounced around San Diego until I landed at Fox 5 full time and was there for the past 3 years.
Oh, wow. So you've been definitely on quite a journey in this industry, just bouncing around everywhere, you said you do sports. Of course, I know you did sports. Actually, I just found out recently, before you left, that you did weather as well. I'm like, Tabitha does weather?
Mm-hmm.
So,
that's what I was originally hired for at Fox. I was like a fill-in forecaster.
Oh, okay. Wow,
Yeah.
interesting. So, what would you say is your favorite type of news? Do you like weather more? Do you like sports? Do you like hard news? What would you say is your favorite type of coverage?
I think I think that's asking me to like tell you if I had children, which my favorite would be because they're all so different. I loved my sports role, but I also really loved news, and that was something I did miss just being in sports. Is when you work in local news, and you do something like sports, it's a pretty hyper focused aspect of what you report on. Whereas now I don't have to choose; like I can talk about all of those subjects, and they're not divided, which is pretty cool.
You seem to be very adventurous. I go on your page. I see like your pictures and everything. You're swimming, diving, everything. You are super super adventurous. And to be honest, I find it kind of inspiring because you would do things that I would be too afraid to do. Like
Yeah.
I am no, I would be so afraid to like just even scuba dive. I've always wanted to try it, but I'm scared to scuba dive. So, I mean, do you think that some women should be more adventurous, daring, and fearless? And what has being adventurous, taught you? Like, how have you embraced that about yourself?
This is a really interesting question. I think that women should always be themselves and never be afraid of anything. I think that has been a topic that's changed a lot in the past couple of decades because I think that there was a moment in time where women were expected to act or be a certain way, right? But
Yeah.
this is 2020, and you can be whoever you want to be. And I think women are learning, especially in our generation, like not to be scared of who you are. And it's okay if scuba diving isn't your thing, because it won't be everyone's thing. Some people are claustrophobic, some people don't like the water, and you can be adventurous in your own way, which could be it could be anything. It could be like you're like adventurous in that you want to try all different sorts of recipes, or you want to be adventurous and you want to road trip across the US, or you just want to be adventurous and teach your kids all different types of subjects, whether it be art or soccer or dance. Like
Yeah.
there's so many different ways, and I hope that women know that. The other thing is, I think that women are learning to support each other too,
Oh,
and always be there for each other, and to be like, you can do this. And I think that's a really beautiful movement as well. So never be scared of anything.
yes, I agree with you 100% that women are to be more um, supportive of one another. It's like you said, especially in our generation in today's society, there's so many things that we already struggle with as women, and that's from like our looks to body image to possessions, things that we want, things that we feel
Yeah.
like we should have by a certain age. And I feel like a lot of women are definitely learning how to be more supportive of one another now, and just encouraging each other. And that's partially why I created this podcast,
Which
because
I love.
this to be a safe place, a safe haven where we come and watch women like you and feel inspired and feel motivated. It's like, well, you know what, if Tabitha did it, then damn it, I can do it too. Why can't I do it?
That's right.
Glad that she said that, because I mean that's basically what this whole thing is really about, just encouraging each other. What has been the most challenging experience that you've ever had, and whether it was personally or professionally? How did you overcome it, and what did it teach you? What did you learn?
I have an experience that I will mention without mentioning location or
Mhm.
mentioning company. And that's just because I'm not there yet, and the people involved like have already gotten their due, I guess. But there was a moment in time where I worked at a place, and this was a part of kind of, I think, the Me Too movement. Of I worked at a place where I wasn't able to advance in my career based on a boss that I had. And that boss had sent me a lot of messages, and had been somewhat aggressive in trying to get me to date them. And I wasn't interested, and that wasn't who I am. And I always wanted to people to know that like my hard work would outshine, would shine a light in case anyone ever had a question of how I could get from A to B. And so I ultimately got like kind of let go from that job. And for a while it bothered me and I like held on to it and I was like, well, this isn't fair, but life isn't fair sometimes. And all I could do is just rise above that moment and be like, you know what? Obviously didn't want to be there anyway, if that was the situation. And I was able to then like find something way better and really come into my own. So I will say, like, I'm sure that there will be women who watch this who may go through something similar. And I haven't really talked about this, but know that as long as you are true to yourself and you stick to your guns and you're like, this is who I am and this is what I'm about, this will outshine anything and no one can ever keep you down. I don't think. People can try, but especially in this industry, which can be brutal sometimes, I think as long as you are forthright and you are like, this is who I am and these are my beliefs and I'm going to work really, really, really hard, good things will come your way because cream, it always rises to the top. That's something someone told me once in an agency. Like, there will always be kind of people that are like, I don't know how I feel about this, but like when you work really hard, you get where you need to go.
Yeah. Kind of piggybacking off of, what you just said, I experienced something similar as well. Before I was working in news and at Fox 5, but without naming the location and the people as well,
Yeah.
I used to work with I used to work with military families and everything. Me being an active duty wife, it's kind of like a part of my lifestyle, and I still work with military families with volunteering with organizations and kind of helping them. But there was a moment where I had an encounter with someone, and it was the very first time it ever happened to me, and like, I did not know how to handle it. I didn't know what to do. Like, you sometimes, you don't ever want to think it will never happen to you.
Sure.
But you don't want to also be naive to it. And so when it happens, it's like, what the heck just happened? And that was actually like a very awkward, rough moment for me. But what I learned from it was I learned how to speak up. Because immediately, like after like identifying what was going on and what was happening, it's like, okay, this is definitely happening to me. This is definitely what this is. I didn't even wait. Like, I immediately reported it. I talked about it. I opened up about it. And that actually taught me how to be confident in my thoughts and in my actions. Like, like, I'm not crazy. I know that what happened to me definitely happened. And I shouldn't feel ashamed about it. I shouldn't feel embarrassed because there was nothing I did that could have invited that type of that type of company.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of women, that this happens to, they sometimes tend to shut out and they don't speak about it. So, piggybacking off of what you said, I want women to, whoever woman is watching this or sees this episode, I want them to know that, one, you're not alone.
Yep.
It's happened to many of us.
So many.
And you won't be the last woman that it happens to. Two, don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid that, because you say something, you're going to look a certain way. No, you speaking up actually is you taking that power back. That power, that power that was taken from you when it happened, you speaking up and talking about it and telling your story is taking that power back that person took from you. So I'm glad that and I've never actually talked about this openly either. So like, you're like one of the first people I ever like actually opened up about it with, except for like my family and everything and my husband. But this is the first time I've actually ever opened up about it. And I'm happy that we're talking about this because, this is another thing that Women, we don't.
Women, yeah. We don't feel like we can, and that's bad. And that what's been great is like, since then, since that interaction that I had, we've gone through the Me Too movement. And this was, pre that time when everyone just kind of kept it to yourself and you just kind of kept going. But now, I mean, now that I know and I've gone through this experience and you have too, we can encourage women like, hey, we've been there. Don't be scared because we have your back because we've been there. And
Yes.
no one should have to go through that again.
Yes. This is why women need to stick together because, I mean, it's just important to have like that support from other women, so that way you're not. So I definitely agree with you. We have now reached to my favorite part of this interview, which is what I like to call raise your glass. So
Okay.
what I do is I ask a general question. We're going to discuss it. And then at the end, Tabitha, I'm going to make a toast to you for being an extraordinary woman because that is exactly what you are. You are completely extraordinary and beautiful. And I'm also going to make a toast to all women out there who are watching this episode right now. If you are watching this, we're going to make a toast to you as well for being extraordinary. So, ready for the question?
I'm ready.
All right. So, is it important to compete with yourself or to compete with others?
I think you know the answer to this. You definitely know the answer to this. I think it is obviously the most important thing you can do is to compete with yourself because we are all on different timelines in our lives and you can't compare yourself to anyone else because you're not like anyone else. You're unique. Everyone's unique. So of course you're always challenging yourself and you're in the right way if that's how you're approaching life. If you look at other people and you compare, you're not going to get very far because you can't compare something unique to something else unique.
Yes, yes. Gonna piggyback again off of what you said. I agree 100%. It is important to compete with yourself. You know, I actually didn't get on board with this until very recently. And when I say recently, I mean within
It's
like the last,
hard.
yeah, I mean within like the last 3 years, I've learned how to just compete with myself and understand that where I'm at is not where my BFF is at. Where my BFS is at is not where I'm at. So it's okay, to compete with yourself, but don't try to compete with other people because, everybody has a different story. Everybody has a different background. The only thing, the best thing you can do is better yourself, look yourself in the mirror, and just literally say, I am my biggest competition. And the next day, you be better than you were yesterday. So,
I raise a glass to that.
totally agree. Now, Tabitha, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for extraordinary woman. You're amazing. I completely love you. And
You're amazing. I feel so weird you calling me amazing. I'm like, you're amazing.
you know what? We are both extraordinary women. We love to inspire. We love to motivate, and that's what this whole thing is about. We are about women empowerment. So I want to say thank you for empowering me today. And I want to say thank you for empowering other women out there and just being you, Tabitha. You're a sweet person. You're a sweet soul, sweet spirit. And thank you. And also to all the women out there, you guys are extraordinary too. Toast to you all.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Tabitha,
Cheers.
for joining me today.